Welcome guys to a brand new Reds Effects vlog. If you're wondering, hey, what are Reds Effects vlogs? Well, remember update vlogs? Well, they're gone. Reds Effects vlogs are in. I'm trying to redesign the brand, push everything to one more unified, unique thing. So just a small tidbit there. Anyway guys, today we are here to talk about that right there, Star Wars The Last Jedi. Normally I don't really do movie reviews. I used to do them in the past, and I haven't done them for quite a while actually, but I did ask you guys on Twitter if you wanted to see my thoughts about The Last Jedi, since I have quite a few of them and I want to talk about it. And according to this poll right here, that one, right over there, you guys do. So let's go. So right off the bat, let me just say that I overall really enjoyed the movie. I had a fun time. It entertained me. It made me gasp. It made me get in shock. It made me I loved the movie technically. So if you search this movie on the internet, type in Star Wars The Last Jedi, you'll find that the Rotten Tomatoes score is 93%, which is fantastic if you think about 93%. I mean, what's the percentage of movies that get 93%? But on the flip side, if you look at the audience rating, it's at about 50-something%, which is really odd for comic book blockbuster type movies, because usually critics pan movies and audiences love the movie. Something like, you know, Batman v Superman or Justice League, where the audience scores are much higher than the critic scores, where in this case, it's been flipped. So we'll talk more about that later, but as I said, overall I enjoyed the movie. First, I want to talk about the few problems I have with the movie. Some of them aren't really problems and some of them are problems, so let's talk about that first. Before I start, let me just say, spoiler warning, full spoilers in this video. There's not even minor spoilers, there's 100% spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet, go watch it, go in clean, enjoy it yourself with a fresh view. Don't look at any spoilers, don't spoil it for yourself. Go in fresh, clean, watch it, then come back and watch this video. And yeah, so I'll give you 2 seconds. 1, 2. Okay, all the people who don't want to be spoiled are gone. All the people are here have watched the movie or just don't care. So let's continue with my first problem. Now, the first problem I have with this movie is that when it starts out, you have the Star Wars logo bursting onto screen, and at that point, let me just say, at that point, when the a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away fades out and the Star Wars logo bursts onto screen, I was smiling so wide, I literally thought to myself, Wait, stop smiling so wide, your face is going to break. When we move on through the movie, we get to the main problem I have with this movie. Now, a lot of people have talked about this, but there is a casino sequence. I think it's called Canto Bight. Now, this sequence and basically the entire Finn and Rose storyline just didn't work for me. It didn't. There's no tiptoeing around it. It didn't work. Basically what happens is Finn and Rose have to go on this secret heist type of mission to get a hacker, and this hacker needs to go onto the First Order ship because Finn used to mop the floors there as a stormtrooper, and the hacker needs to find out how they're tracking the rebels through light speed. So it's an interesting plot point, and the way they maneuver around this is that the entire movie just stops. I mean, you're with Rey on the island with Luke, and then you're bouncing from Princess Leia on the ships with Poe Dameron, and the Empire and the First Order's following them heavily. Everything's tension high, and suddenly the movie just stops like to a dead halt. It's like you jam the brakes, and suddenly we're on a Canto Bight at this casino with people just drinking and gambling their funds away, doing, you know, gambling and all that stuff. But all of that's just happening, and the movie just stops and it turns into a slapstick comedy movie with Finn and Rose running around this place and meeting Benicio del Toro's character, was funny at times, but again, this whole sequence it dragged. The pacing just fell through the roof, and I really think that if this sequence was shortened a bit, it would be able to save the pace, because with this entire sequence in the movie as it is, it really tanks a bit of the first act and a major part of the second act. I mean, during that part I was bored. There's no going around it. I wasn't remotely interested in what was happening. I understand why they needed to have that sequence, because they wanted to punch some, you know, animal cruelty messages, which is always good. They wanted to introduce the children, because in the last scene we do see that child looking up at the stars, sort of hinting that there's more Jedi to come. So I understand why they needed to have that scene, because there are certain things that happen in that scene that if they didn't happen, nothing would make sense later on. But I feel if they were able to cut that scene down more, like just squish it down a little bit more and make it a bit more fun, add some different elements into it, because at the end of the day, the only thing they set up in that scene is the child, is the child at the end, or the children, and they have that message about animal cruelty. And while that's a good message, just because it's a good social message about that, you know, links to what's happening nowadays in our world, doesn't mean it's going to save the sequence. If you think about it, everything that happened in that scene just falls through the roof, because by the time they eventually get that hacker to the First Order, first of all, he betrays them, and second of all, by that time, they don't even need to know why they're tracking them by light speed, because the plan is completely different, and Poe was wrong all along. So, that actually rhymes, Poe was wrong all along. Anyway, that, you see, the entire scene, maybe if there was higher stakes in that scene and the pace dropped during it, maybe towards the end they did something that saved it, maybe it would be better, but that scene is a really big problem, and it's basically the only proper problem I have with the movie. The only other issue I have, and again, this is like the first issue with the comedy, that was a bit jarring. This issue is not an issue that's a flaw. It's something that I wasn't expecting, something that I went like, what? Really? Are you gonna do that? Oh, okay. So it was something like that, where it happened, and then immediately after I thought, are they really gonna do this? And then after that I accepted and I said, okay, they are doing it. Let's roll with it. And that was when Snoke died. Now, every single scene with Snoke, I was eating up. I wanted more. Every time they cut from Snoke to Finn and Rose or the Rebels or something, I was saying, go back to Snoke and Rey. I mean, when he's got Rey captured and she goes for the lightsaber and she tries to force pull it and he just loops the lightsaber right back and smacks her in the head. I was literally in awe. I was like, this is brilliant. It was very reminiscent of the scene in Return of the Jedi when the Emperor was trying to taunt Luke. It's almost exactly like that scene. But it was brilliant, those scenes. And seeing the play on Kylo Ren and Snoke, that was really, it was really effective. But the problem I had was when Kylo turns eventually and he kills Snoke, I thought they were going to do something like, oh, maybe Snoke dodged the lightsaber. Maybe he's so powerful it doesn't affect him. Or I don't know, something. But then he just dies. And I was sitting there like, he just died? I mean, he had some good scenes in the movie, but he just died? I mean, you've been building him up during The Force Awakens like this all-evil, powerful menace. His hologram is 50,000 times the size of anyone else's hologram, and then he just dies? I mean, I understand why. I mean, maybe his arrogance, he didn't see that Kylo was turning, and he died. But it was a bit, again, the word I keep referring to is jarring, because it was jarring to see him just die. I understand why they were doing that. They wanted to kill the past, even though it was just the last movie. So yeah, I don't know why they did that. I understand though, at the end. I didn't know at the time why they were doing that, but towards the end, when the script came together, I understood, and I respect that choice. It's a bold move, but half the time it doesn't really make sense. So anyway, that's my last problem with the movie. Now, on to the good ones, because this list is even longer. My first pro is the acting. If you talk about the acting in this movie, it's phenomenal. And the ones that really stand out is Mark Hamill, obviously as Luke Skywalker, who probably gives the best performance I've ever seen from him. And Adam Driver, who every single scene Adam Driver was in, I was locked onto that screen. I was locked on. I couldn't look away. He had a fantastic performance. And another positive I have with this movie is I really like that new story element they introduced where Rey and Kylo could literally talk through the Force. Those scenes were heart-pounding. I mean, I wanted to hear more about that when they kept talking about Kylo's different version of events when Luke tried to kill him, and Luke's different version of events, and how Rey is torn in between the dark side and the light side. And you're thinking, is she turning Kylo, or is Luke turning bad? You don't know. And that was what's really brilliant about the script, and what Rian Johnson really did really well in the script, because again, as I said before, this is a completely different Star Wars movie than the others. And you'd never see anything like this in the other ones, because in the other ones, Star Wars has always been a classic evil versus good. Good versus evil. There's a clear evil and there's a clear bad. There's the Jedi who are ultimately good. They don't do anything wrong. They're always calm. They don't lose their temper. They're good. Then you have the dark side who's violent and rough. Where in this movie, they sort of blend them together and the lines become blurred and you don't know what's really happening until the end. And eventually when we get that amazing lightsaber battle with Kylo and Rey where they're teaming up, there's actually no lightsaber on lightsaber battle in this movie, which is a bit disappointing, but at the same time, I don't really mind. So when Kylo and Rey team up, where they have that amazing fight sequence, at that point you're thinking, maybe she's turned Kylo, and this is completely different. And at that point I was thinking to myself, maybe it's too different, because Star Wars, as I said, has always been about good and bad. And now when she's turning the bad guy over to the good side, and the ultimate bad guy, as in Snoke, is dead on the ground with his tongue sticking out, where does this leave everything? So I was thinking it's a bit too different, but then, after the battle ends, and Kylo tries to persuade Rey to come onto his side and start a new empire basically, That was when I realized it's brilliant. Because they've given you something different, but at the same time they've reverted back to the original core of Star Wars, which is good versus evil. And I really love that. I also, again, this is all accredited to Adam Driver's acting, because when he's talking about let's talk about the Rey parents reveal. People are disappointed that Han Solo wasn't Rey's father, which I never thought was a possibility. Let's be honest. Han Solo being Rey's father is that's never gonna happen. But when Kylo was alluding to Rey's parents, I was thinking, oh, they're gonna finally reveal who Rey's parents are. And he says they were no one. They sold you off for drinking money. They buried somewhere in Jakku. I thought to myself, that is brilliant, because she doesn't belong in the story. As he said, you're no one. You don't belong here, but not to me. And again, that's all up to Adam Driver's acting. And also Daisy Ridley was fantastic in that scene as well. And at that point, I also really, really loved that story element, because everybody's always expecting a twist. Everybody always wants someone to be someone. And I was totally fine with her parents being no one, because it strengthens her character even more. That's what Rian Johnson said. Rian Johnson, the director of the movie, said in an interview that in Empire Strikes Back, which a lot of people hail to be the best Star Wars movie ever, the one thing you don't want to hear is that Darth Vader is linked to Luke Skywalker. The ultimate protagonist, Luke, and the ultimate antagonist are linked through family, through blood. You don't want to hear that. Here in this case, you do want to hear that Rey is linked because she's on the good side, and you want to hear that she has good parents that for some reason left her. So they completed the opposite. In The Empire Strikes Back, they made Darth Vader Luke's father. In this one, when you want that connection actually, they throw it out the window and they're like, no, she's no one. And that's why she has to work even harder to be part of the story. Makes sense, doesn't it? I think so. Okay, so this is getting pretty long right now, and I know I've been fanboying out about Star Wars, so let me just wrap this up with a few tidbits. So, first of all, Yoda. Amazing to see Yoda. Frank Oz returns to do his mastery as the voice, and also, they had the original puppet from The Empire Strikes Back, which also it warmed me heart. My heart was very warm. Excuse the accent. Another thing, Porgs. Let's talk about Porgs. Porgs, they're cute. Who gives a crap? Everybody's going on about how Porgs are so irritating. Who gives a crap about Porgs? Porgs are cute. Porgs are fine. Porgs. I've said Porgs so many times, I can't stop saying it. Porgs. They were in this movie. They were funny. People laughed. They were cute. Who gives a crap? No, it's not a big deal. It's just Porgs. Porgs. Say it with me. Porgs. It really rolls off the tongue. Another thing I really liked was General Hux. When he was having his little freak outs where he was like, "You rebel filth, I will destroy you and your planet. You are filth, you are rebel scum, your rebellion will die." I just loved it. That was a bad impression. I just love General Hux. I found that he has no depth to his character. There's no history there. He means nothing, literally. But he just served as some sort of comedic relief with him and Kylo Ren, because we know they don't like each other. And when he was having his little freakouts being the Empire, and not the Empire, the First Order. I keep saying the Empire, the First Order. When he was having his little freakouts and, speeches and all that stuff, I just felt it was really effective. So, a thumbs up for General Hux. So to wrap this up, ultimately, I think that the reason audiences are split is because this movie is very different. And the reason it's different is because it's different directors' visions. If you look at The Force Awakens, which I really love, I love The Force Awakens. If you look at it and people complain that it's very similar, and now when they do something completely different with The Last Jedi, people are complaining it's too different. You can never please audiences, but the reason I think is because J.J. Abrams, who directed The Force Awakens, this was just coming off of the huge purchase that Disney made buying Lucasfilm for $4 billion. $4 billion! It's safe to say that they wanted to play it safe. They just blown $4 billion out of the window. So they thought, let's write a safe script. Let's copy A New Hope a little bit. Let's have some familiar themes in there with a bit of difference, because The Force Awakens does do things a little bit differently. Let's have something a bit similar. People will appreciate it. Nostalgia will kick in. And well, I think they made the right choice, because The Force Awakens is one of the highest grossing movies in cinema history. Now we get to The Last Jedi. People are already back into Star Wars. Star Wars is a thing now in the modern world. People are liking it. People are on board. They're buying the toys. I mean, I've got a lightsaber toy right here. You know why I bought this? Because of The Force Awakens, that's why. So now The Force Awakens is out and they come to The Last Jedi and they think, you know what, we can now do our own story. So they give it to Rian Johnson, and maybe he didn't really like what J.J. Abrams did. Maybe he wanted to make a different Star Wars movie. So he kind of kicked all J.J.'s ideas out. He kicked the Rey Parent storyline out. He kicked the Snoke idea out. And he did his own thing. Respect for that. I respect him to do that because we need different Star Wars movies. We can't have the same thing over and over. While this one is different, it still stays true to Star Wars. And it still feels like Star Wars. At least it does to me. I'd say that J.J. Abrams had a bit more of a seatbelt on him, where Rian Johnson played it wild. He drove without a seatbelt, which you should never do, by the way. But ultimately, I think this chalks up to two different directors and two different visions. There's not much we can do about that. One other thing before we close up is that Ridge FX, which you might have seen, I actually updated the Ridge FX logo and all that. It's on the channel. You can check it out in the YouTube banner. Ridge FX is on a mid-season break now. We've done 10 episodes, which we normally take a mid-season break. Although this mid-season break is going to be a tad bit longer because a lot of stuff is happening in my life right now. Good things, nothing bad, good things, but I need to focus on that a bit more. So Ridge FX will be back in February. Mid to late February, but if I want to post an episode before that, I do it if I have some good idea or something. But otherwise, I need to focus on some other things. But when we're back with Ridge FX in 2018 February, it'll be better than ever. And who knows? Might even pop an episode in January if I feel like it. If you guys are good and if you like this video, down below. That was a brilliant segue, admit it. That was brilliant. Like the video down below, share it with all your mates, and tell me, what did you think of Star Wars The Last Jedi? Did you like it? Were you disappointed by it? Were you just thinking, this is an okay movie? It's okay. Because it's fine to do that as well. Tell me down below, rank your Star Wars movies in the comments as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely check out some of the videos on the end screen of this video. Like, for example, I'll put out my Star Wars VFX playlist, as well as I'll extract one from that playlist and put on the, let's say, my lightsaber effect, because I did a lightsaber effect now. So you can check out the lightsaber effect, as well as follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Go see Star Wars if you haven't already, although this is a spoiler. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I'm rambling, and I'll see you in the next one.